4 unmanned areas in China. The 4 major unmanned areas in China are distributed in Qinghai, Tibet, and Xinjiang regions. Due to their sparsity and mystery, they have become places that people particularly enjoy exploring. Lop Nur. In the northeast of Ruoqiang County, Lop Nur used to be the second largest salt lake in China, with an altitude of 780 meters and an area of about 2,400 to 3,000 square kilometers. It is famous for the ancient Silk Road in the east of the Darim Basin. The ancient Lop Nur was born at the end of the Tertiary period and the beginning of the Quaternary, with an area of more than 20,000 square kilometers. Under the influence of the neotectonic movement, the lake basin tilted from south to north and was divided into several depressions. Lop Nur is the lowest and largest depression in the north. It was once the water accumulation center of the Darim Basin. In ancient times, it originated from the drainage basins of Tian Shan, Kunlun, and Arghun mountains, and flowed into the Lop Nur depression to form lakes. Lop Nur has had many names. Some are named for its characteristics, such as Aos, Yenza, Dry Sea, etc., and some are named for its location, such as Puchang Sea, Laolan Sea, Peacock Sea, etc. After the Yuan dynasty, it was called Rob Nur. In the Han dynasty, Lop Nur was 300 li wide, with water pavilions, and no increase or decrease in winter and summer. Its abundance led people to guess that it sneaked underground and accumulated stones in the south to become the River of China. This misunderstanding of Lop Nur as the source of the Yellow River spread for more than 2,000 years from the pre-Qin dynasty to the end of the Qing dynasty. By the 4th century AD, the lowland in the west of Lop Nur, which was once the flood will come when the water is big, was in a tight position to use laws to limit water use. At the end of the Qing dynasty, when the water rose in Lop Nur, it was only 80 or 90 miles long from east to west, and 23 or 12 miles wide from north to south, becoming a small lake. In 1921, the Darim River was diverted to the east, via Lop Nur. By the 1950s, the lake area had reached more than 2,000 square kilometers. In the 1960s, Lop Nur gradually dried up due to the cutoff of the lower reaches of the Darim River. At the end of 1972, it completely dried up. In order to reveal the true face of Lop Nur, countless explorers have gone deep into it through the ages, many of which are tragic stories, and even more mysterious Lop Nur. Some people say that Lop Nur is a devil's triangle on the Asian continent, through which the ancient Silk Road passes. Many ghosts have wandered here since ancient times, and dead bones are everywhere. When the eminent monk Faxian of the Eastern Jin dynasty traveled westward to obtain scriptures and passed by this place, he once wrote, "If there are many evil spirits and hot winds in the Shay, they will die, and there is no complete one." Many people die of thirst not far from the spring, and incredible things happen from time to time. In 1949, a plane flying from Chongqing to Dihua, Urumqi, disappeared over Shanshan County. In 1958, it was found in the east of Lop Nur, and all the people on board died. It is puzzling that the plane was flying in the northwest. Why did it suddenly change its route to the south? In 1950, a guard of the People's Liberation Army bandit suppression force disappeared. After more than 30 years, the geological team found his body in the Honglio Valley on the south bank of Lop Nur, more than 100 kilometers away from the accident site. On June 17, 1980, Peng Jiamu, a famous scientist, disappeared during his investigation in Lop Nur. The country dispatched planes, troops and police dogs, and spent a lot of manpower and material resources to carry out a carpet search but found nothing. In 1990, 7 people in Hami went to Lop Nur in a van to look for crystal mines, and never returned. 2 years later, 3 lying corpses were discovered on a steep slope. The car is 30 kilometers away from the deceased, and the whereabouts of the others are unknown. In the summer of 1995, 3 Milan farm workers went to Lop Nur in a Beijing jeep to search for treasures and disappeared. Later explorers discovered the bodies of 2 of them at a distance of 17 kilometers from Lolan. The cause of death is unknown, while the whereabouts of the other person are unknown. Incredibly, their cars are in good condition, with no shortage of water or gasoline. In June 1996, Yu Chunshun, a Chinese explorer, was killed in a solo hiking expedition in Lop Nur. Due to deviation from the pre-planned route, the buried water and food were not found and unfortunately died. Lop Nur is a mysterious world and a mysterious wasteland. For thousands of years, people have been lost, thinking, arguing and even devoting themselves to you. Arghun. Arghun Nature Reserve is located in the north of East Kunlun Mountain in the south of Arghun Mountain. It starts from the boundary between Ruoqiang and Qiama counties in the west, ends at the junction of Xinjiang and Qinghai provinces in the east, ends at Kamantag in the south of Arghun Mountain in the north, and ends at East Kunlun Mountains, which separates Xinjiang from Tibet in the south. It is 360 kilometers long from east to west, 190 kilometers wide from south to north, and covers a total area of 44,940 square kilometers. Arghun Mountain Reserve is surrounded by high mountains, modern glaciers, plateau lakes and plateau deserts, as well as a wide range of Tibetan wild donkeys, Tibetan antelopes, wild yak, wild camels, black-necked crane, Tibetan snowcock, eastern imperial eagle, Pallas's fish eagle and other rare birds and animals, together with 241 kinds of wild plants, make the plateau a wonder. The artery in the plateau basin composed of 8 main rivers, and many seasonal rivers in the Arghun Mountain Reserve nourishes the vast alpine grassland. The drainage area of the 8 main rivers reaches 20,000 square kilometers. There are 2 main types of water supply for rivers, namely glacier melt water and exposed spring water. The rivers in the protected area have different forms, some of which surge and flow directly into the lake basin. Sometimes they dive underground and sometimes emerge from the ground, slowly converging towards the basin depression. Some water quality is pure, some have mineralization levels as high as 71.5 grams per liter. Sulu Baitalak River is the largest river in the reserve, which originates from the north slope of Nuchingfong and flows into Lake Ayakam, with a total length of 280 kilometers and a drainage area of 6,250 square kilometers. The protected area is dotted with lakes, covering a total area of 1,200 square kilometers, accounting for 2.7% of the protected area, and playing an important role in regulating the climate within the area. Lake Ayakam is located in the north of the reserve, covering an area of 536 square kilometers, and is the largest lake in the reserve. Lake Akikal is located in the west of the reserve, covering an area of 352 square kilometers, and the lake water salinity reaches 81.6 g/liter. 2 small islands stand in the lake, looking from a distance like ships chopping waves. The island is home to a large number of birds and birds. Whale Lake is located in the southern part of the protected area, and is named after its resemblance to whales. Kumu Lake and Kakik Kumu Lake, which are sand lakes and small sand lakes in Uyghur language, are located on the Kumikil Sand Mountain. The lake water is replenished by the condensed water of Sand Mountain and bedrock fissure water. The water quality is good, and the mineralization degree is 0.3 g/L. The only freshwater lake with inlet and outlet, Lake Ishikapati, also known as Lake Ishikapati, covers an area of 11.8 square kilometers and is shaped like a gourd. The water quality is good, and there are various aquatic organisms, such as hook shrimp growing in the lake. The lake is green on Monday. It is the only place in the protected area where herdsmen live, and also a paradise for birds. The Jitan Lake Group is a crescent-shaped distribution of 145 small lakes in the desert at an altitude of 4,900 meters separated by a sand dune chain. There are also multiple glacial terminal moraine lakes remaining in the protected area during the glacial period. Due to the water control effect of structural fractures and the water blocking effect of faults, there is a significant difference in groundwater volume between the north and south sides of the protected area. There are multiple fault springs along the south side of the fault trend. The springs exposed in limestone formations are excellent groundwater resources. The sand spring at the northern slope of Kumkil Shah Mountain in the northeast of the protected area has 3 spring eyes with an elevation of 3,920 meters. It is surrounded by sand on its east, south, and west sides, forming a funnel that opens northward. The largest spring has a diameter of over 200 meters, while the other 2 have a diameter of 50 meters. The spring water is characterized by a descending spring, overflowing in thousands of scattered streams along the slope. If a person stands in the spring water, it will sink if it moves. Mingyalak, also known as Thousand Springs, is named after nearly 1,000 spring eyes scattered on the edge of the depression. This place is rich in water and grass, making it a good place for animals to forage. There are still many mountain hot springs to be proved along the Quaternary volcanic activity site, at the southern edge of the reserve. In the Erge Mountain of Arghun Mountain Nature Reserve, there is an ancient karst landform, which starts from the Bukataban Mountain in the east and ends at Akakolari in the west, and is hidden in the mountains 4,400 to 5,000 meters above sea level. This ancient limestone mountain has undergone thousands of years of wind and rain, dissolved and differentiated, presenting a variety of strange shapes. The towering stone peaks, some rising from the ground and piercing into the blue sky, some resembling camels, elephants, dragons, crouching tigers, penholders, overpasses, temples, point generals, cacti, stone flagpoles, horse pegs, are vivid and lifelike, as well as various forms of karst ditches, stalagmites, corridors, and corridors. Due to the influence of quaternary glaciers in some areas, the karst landform of Argon Mountain forms a corner peak that sweeps the mountains out quietly and supports the sky suddenly. The karst landform of the protected area is overlaid with glacier landform, with steep cliffs, deep valleys, hanging glaciers, and a myriad of phenomena. Hozil Nature Reserve is located in Yushu Tibetan Autonomous Prefecture in the southwest of Qinghai Province, 89 east longitude 25, 9405 34 north latitude 19, 3616. It covers the south of Kunlun Mountains and the north of Ulan Ula Mountains, starting from the Qinghai-Tibet Highway in the east and ending at the provincial boundary in the west. The reserve is connected to the Tibet Autonomous Region in the west, Galma Tangula Township in the south, Xinjiang in the north, and Qinghai-Tibet Highway in the east, with a total area of 45,000 square kilometers. Hozil is located in the hinterland of the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau, with an average altitude of more than 4,600 meters. The highest peak is Bukataban Peak, also known as Xinqing Peak or Monomaha Peak, of Kunlun Mountain in the north, with an altitude of 6,860 meters. The lowest point is at Leopard Gorge, the corner where Nanlahongshui River in Kunlun Mountains crosses Bokalek, 4,200 meters above sea level. The terrain in the area is high in the north and south, low in the middle, high in the west, and low in the east. Hozil Mountain and Dongbuel Mountain cross the central part of the region. There are two wide valley lake basins between the mountains, and the terrain is relatively flat. Mountains with an altitude of 5,500 to 6,000 meters or above have modern glacier development. For example, Bukataban Foam, 6,860 meters, Malin Mountain, 6,813 meters, and a few mountains more than 5,600 meters also have small-scale glaciers, such as Dongangzari, 5,882 meters, with a total area of more than 1,700 square kilometers of glaciers. This area is the intersection area of the inner flow lake area of the Chongtang Plateau and the northern source water system of the Yangtze River. The eastern part is the northern source water system of the Yangtze River dominated by the Chuma River, which is mainly recharged by rainwater and groundwater recharge. The water volume is small, and the river is often seasonal. There are many lakes in the west and north of the inner water system centered on lakes, and outside the northeast of the inner lake area of the Chongtang Plateau. According to statistics, there are 107 lakes with an area greater than 1 square kilometer, with a total area of 3,825 square kilometers, including 7 lakes with an area of over 200 square kilometers. The largest is Ulan Ula Lake, with a water area of 544.5 square kilometers. The climate characteristics of this area are low temperature, less precipitation, more strong winds, and significant regional differences. The annual average temperature in the territory gradually decreases from southeast to northwest. There is an obvious warm area in the Ulan Lake area of West Jin. The warmest area has an annual average temperature of -4.10 C, and the coldest area is Lexi Wudankuo, the westernmost area. The annual average temperature is -10.00 C, calculated value, and the lowest temperature is -46.40 C. Other areas are between the two. The distribution trend of annual average precipitation in Hozil region is gradually decreasing from southeast to northwest, between 173 and 495 millimeters. This area has strong winds and is one of the high wind speed areas in China during the season with weaker winds. There is still a strong wind with an instantaneous wind speed of 24.0 meters per second, 1647 on July 9, 1990, near the Ulan Lake in Shijin, and the annual average wind speed distribution increases from east to west. The soil type in the area is simple, mostly alpine meadow soil, alpine grassland soil, and alpine cold desert soil, followed by marsh soil, and scattered marsh soil, chap soil, saline soil, alkaline soil, and aeolian sand soil. The soil develops young, deeply affected by freeze-thaw effects. Due to the influence of various hydrothermal conditions such as geographical location, terrain height, terrain aspect and surface composition, the natural landscape presents alpine meadow, alpine grassland, alpine desert replacement from southeast to northwest. The alpine grassland is the main type. There is also a large area of distribution of alpine periglacial vegetation, with a small amount distributed in alpine desert grasslands, alpine cushion vegetation, and alpine deserts. Alpine meadows and swamps are only distributed in very few other regions. There are few species of biota in this area, but the proportion of endemic species in Qinghai Tibet Plateau is large, and the population is large. According to years of observation, there are 29 species of mammals, of which 11 are endemic to the Qinghai Tibet Plateau, 53 species of birds, 1 species of reptiles, and 6 species of fish. There are 102 genera and 202 species of higher plants in the region, of which 84 species are endemic species to the Qinghai Tibet Plateau, accounting for 41.56% of the total species in the region. The unique biological species in this area are not only rare animals and plants in China, but also highly valued in the world, and are of great importance in both academic and natural conservation. Chongtang, Tibet. Located in Naku and Gari Prefecture of the Tibet Autonomous Region, Tibet Chongtang Nature Reserve is 79 degrees 42, minus 91 degrees east, and 32 degrees 10 minutes minus 36 degrees 32 N, with a total area of 29.8 million hectares. It is the largest nature reserve in China, and the second largest nature reserve in the world after Greenland National Park. Established with the approval of the People's Government of Tibet Autonomous Region in 1993, the reserve is a nature reserve with plateau ecosystem and rare wild animals as its main protection objects. This area is located in the northwest of the Qinghai Tibet Plateau, surrounded by the Kunlun Mountains, the Karakoram, and the Gangdais Nianqing Tanggula Mountains in the north, west and south respectively, and is a